Hello, hello, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Next Gen Racing FASTR BMW M4 Sunday League Season 20, round number 6. We're here today at the Italian circuit of Sardinia Road Track B for what is expected to be a brilliant series of battles and a great way to kick off the second half of the season. I'm your host, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I'm here trackside for the entire evening to take you through all the action, the highs, the lows, the battles as drivers come to blows, and it is a pleasure to be back once again in the commentators hub, being able to bring it all to you live as it commences. But of course, it's been some time since we've been out of the circuit, so we need to take a brief moment to just reintroduce the series, then also reintroduce our primary sponsor, and then finally come around to our drivers. We've got 18 minutes to go before we get underway with our 10-minute qualifying session, after which there'll be 2 races back-to-back. There'll be race number 1, which is a 10-minute sprint race, where all of our drivers will be lining up in qualifying order, albeit they'll be segregated a little bit based on whether they're racing as part of the Alien League or Lobby 1. Our Alien League drivers will be at the front of the pack, and our League 1 drivers will be behind. And we call them Division 1 in fact, so we've got Alien League and Division 1. And then in the second race, we'll be doing a reverse grid. Again, it'll be another 10-minute sprint race, reverse grid, and we'll have our Alien League drivers line up at the front, and we'll have our Division 1 drivers line up behind, but reverse grids within each of those categories. We're expecting our races to kick off at approximately 1/4 with our 10-minute qualifying session. And then our trackside steward tonight, Gino Demmer, who is hosting the lobby and organising all of the grids. We'll have to take some time in order to get things underway, but once we're underway, you can be sure we've got plenty of fighting to come. Now with that, we're going to take a brief moment to say hello to our sponsor, or introduce our sponsor, and that is FASTR, F-A-S-T-R. You can find them on Google if you search for BeFaster.com. They're an organisation which is actually promoting sim racing and motorsport careers up and down the paddock. When I say paddock here, I'm talking about the metaphorical paddock of life, whereby they're trying to encourage more and more people of all generations, of all ages, to get into motorsport, whether it starts off with sim racing or directly within the mechanical domain, in the real world domain of course. And to promote that, they've got their own website and they sponsor a number of leagues, and indeed they are the primary sponsor for the BMW M4 League here on GT Sport, as hosted by Next Gen Racing. So be sure to check them out if you haven't already. Very interesting website to read through, and indeed a brilliant organisation to be supporting us. Indeed, we support them in all of their aspirations. It's to our mutual benefit that we're all working together to make sure that sim racing and motorsport is here to stay throughout the years. What with motorsport having grown rapidly over the last best part of 30 to 40 years, let's keep that trend going. Without further ado, as we quickly say hello to all of our drivers and let them know that they are being broadcast live right now. I hope you're all doing well and you're having a good weekend. It's a 3-day weekend in the United Kingdom. We've got Monday off, a bank holiday Monday. And I hope you're all having a fantastic weekend as we're coming towards that end of the halfway point and we're coming into the final third as of tomorrow. But without further ado, we will be flipping around to take a look at our drivers now. So let's introduce them one by one, as we always do, and we're going to make sure that we can see all of our information, and we've got access to our keyboard, of course, which enables us to get all of our snazzy camera angles, and also gives us a bit of quality of life. So we're going to begin by introducing our Alien League drivers, the ones that are currently here at the circuit, and we'll be introducing them within championship order, so who's leading, and we start off with one Sparks Theory. Now, the British driver here, currently leading the Alien League on 190 points, really has been the best of the field by a significant margin throughout the season so far, as we say hello to MMR Luke Mitchell in a chat, who's also racing tonight. We'll come back to Luke in short order, of course. But focusing on our lead driver at the moment in the Alien League, Sparks really has been the force to contend with, just running away from things throughout the season, albeit he hasn't had it all his own way, but he's been running away from it if you just looked at the points, picking up the vast majority of wins. However, he has had a number of drivers nipping at his heels throughout, and they're not just necessarily Alien League drivers, but also some of the League 1 drivers as well. So we're looking forward to see what Sparks is able to achieve tonight, of course. Sparks being a well-known and well-loved driver up and down the field within the Next Gen Racing community, and indeed the wider realm of GT Sport. A top split driver, a regular top split driver, and still a top split driver today, and Sparks is one of those drivers who I think inspires a huge upcoming generation of sim racing drivers. Indeed, a majority of the drivers here do as well, no doubt. But Sparks right now will be looking to continue his form from last week. Well, last week, 2 weeks ago, I should say, when the dust came down at what was Spa, whereby picking up a huge string of results, 23 points in race number 1 and 22 points in race number 2 for what was the win and fastest lap in race number 1, and then the win in race number 2. Now, behind him in the Alien League Championship, we do have one MMR's Luke Mitchell, who we're going to try and find on circuit at the moment. We did see him pop up in the Twitch chat, and we are, of course, on Twitch. So if at any point you do want to say hello, feel free to do so in the Twitch chat. Don't be shy, we don't bite here. Luke Mitchell, though, focusing on our driver who we're looking at right now in the white and blue liveried BMW M4. The British driver currently sat second in the Alien League on 131 points, so a sizable gap between himself and Sparks. The best region of 59 points, let's do our maths correctly. And we'll be looking to cement his place in second place in the Alien League, no doubt, tonight. And when I say cement, gain an advantage, really, because we've got a number of rounds to go. This being round 6, and it is a 10-round series. He is only 1 point ahead of third place right now, and really started to come into his own form over the course of the last couple of rounds. Luke Mitchell having a very shaky start, but having a good set of results last time out at Spa, and we'll be looking to carry that momentum forward. He is being chased, however, by TNR Philo, who is at circuit side tonight, running around in the Need for Speed Most Wanted inspired liveried BMW M4 GT4 liveried mobile there. We say it's Need for Speed Most Wanted inspired based on the fact that it's got that silver-blue combination, which was off of the title car of the Need for Speed game. But focusing on the here and now, of course, Philo wasn't able to participate in the previous races at Spa, so lost out on a significant number of points because he was much closer to Sparks' Theory and was really taking the challenge to Sparks, but missing out on some critical points, meaning that gap has opened up massively, and now he finds himself in third place in the Alien League on 130 points, only 1 point off of Luke Mitchell. You then got to go a further, what is 21 points back, to fourth place in the Alien League Championship, and that is currently held on by one GTP's Rick WRX. Now we're looking at a round for Rick. I don't think he's at trackside right now, unless I'm completely mistaken, which I am prone to a few mistakes every so often, but I can't see Rick right now, so Rick, we're not sure if he's going to be here. I believe he is on his way, but we will wait and find out. But in the meantime, as we cut back to our drivers who are here and present, with Rick being on 109 points, we have got Luke Doherty, who is also not here at trackside right now, so he is the other Alien League drivers. Those are the two drivers we're missing. So our 4th and 5th place drivers in the Alien League not present right now, and Luke in last round's races back at Spa, picking up only 13 points with that DNF in race number 5 and on 80 points, in race number 2, and as a result on 80 points. So Luke having a difficult time and trying to get himself up into contention in the Alien League. But meanwhile, as we see a number of drivers are leaving the room and rejoining the room, if we introduce our League 1 drivers, well, the League 1 Championship right now is being led by this man right here, the British driver of Matthew Lambert in his BMW M4, making his way into Turn 5, and we'll talk about the circuit and all its twists and turns in a short order. But Matthew Lambert has been the leading driver in League 1, albeit only recently. It's been very closely contested between him and one other driver who we'll introduce very shortly, and in the case of Matthew Lambert, it's been one of those scenarios where he's really been coming into his own element over the last couple of rounds, and in fact has been the driver to take the fight to some extent to Sparks Theory out on circuit, albeit they're racing in different leagues here. He has been chasing down Sparks Theory over some of the races and getting in amongst the Alien League drivers, which was quite a surprise to some when we went to Spa last time out. But Matthew Lambert really has been starting to build a lot of momentum, and he needs it on those 166 points, 10 clear at the moment of his main championship contender within Division 1. And that is, if we're trying to find him out on circuit, the British driver here of Martin JL09. Now, Martin was the strongest starter in Division 1, it should be pointed out at the beginning of the season. Well, the fact he started to make a little bit of a breakaway lead, but Lambert then started to switch on the form, and now the tables have been turned, with Martin last time out getting a good set of points, almost the same number of points as Matthew Lambert, but just missing out on 1 or 2 critical points, and that's why that gap's at 10 points right now, with Martin on 156, but that gap will come down. We're sure if Martin's able to find some solid form, and if anybody will, it will be Martin. Martin being one of the most consistent drivers out there in our field today. And there's a sizable gap of the best part of what is, if my mental maths is correct, of 47 points to third place in League One, and that is held on by the Dutch driver of Sir Bertus, making his way across our timing lines right now. The Dutchman on 109 points and in a very close contention for third place in the League One Championship. Where the fact that last time out at Spa, he picked up a reasonable set of points, albeit it was not his strongest showing. He had a bit of a difficult time at Spa compared to some of the other drivers, and the main one he's in rivalry with right now is Edge HJG. And Edge right now, I believe, is at trackside, or am I mistaken in that? No, he doesn't actually appear to be at trackside right now, Edge. So actually this is working out in his favour, given the fact that Edge is not racing as of tonight by looks of things so far, unless he turns up at the very last minute. And Edge is, of course, not Sir Bertus's, my apologies. Yeah, he is Sir Bertus's main rival for the third place in the Division 1 Championship right now. So Sir Bertus will be grateful not to see Edge here, but of course Edge may appear at the very last moment. You never know what could happen. Now I'm just going to double check with regards to our trackside steward whether it's meant to be the case that 1805 is here, because that's not a name that we've got listed at the moment. Here's 2 seconds, folks. And I believe it's the case that 1805 has mistakenly, he's a Lobby 2 driver, so a Division 2 driver, and has mistakenly come into Lobby 1. So that corrects things at short notice. Apologies for that, folks. And as we continue with only 7 minutes to go before we get underway with the racing, we hop from Sir Bertus to Duskiver, who is in the pits right now. Duskiver in that rather notable red BMW livery. And we can see the British driver at the moment is currently sat in 5th place in the Division 1 Championship on 101 points. 7 points down on Edge, and last time out at Spa, had a difficult time at Spa, albeit race number 1 was a solid performance for Duskiver, but race number 2 really just didn't go the way he hoped it would, and as a result he just didn't get the points on the board which would have enabled him to close up to Edge. So we have got a close battle starting to form for third place in the Drivers' Championship for League 1. But let's see how that's going to play out over the course of tonight, because then you've got the region of 9 points to go down to a Dcast 16, who is currently sat in 6th place in Division 1. The British driver sat in the pit lane here in the Monster energy drink inspired livery BMW M4 there, and currently on those 92 points, having the weakest performance of anyone within League 1 last time out at Spa, and we'll be looking to turn that around this time at Sardinia. We've then got D10 Piper, who's a further 7 points down in what is 7th place, and D10 right now sat in the pits. And we can see that D10, the British driver here, running around in the Pornhub liveried BMW M4, inspired by the adult company there, of course. And the British driver last time out on those 85 points, getting a good set of points in race number 2. However, race number 1, he finished dead last of the pack for League 1 and not having the best of times there, unfortunately. And we're looking to try and string together some more consistent results tonight. We've then got Gino Demmer, who is in 8th place in Division 1, and Gino, I believe, is currently sat in the pits. There is Gino. The British driver just waiting to get underway for Hispania Racing tonight. And on 74 points, he is the best part of what is 11 points down on D10 Piper, and will be looking to try and turn around what has been a decline in form compared to the start of the season. But Gino has had a lot of bad luck on his side, particularly with regards to incidents occurring which have not been of his own causing, but he's been the one in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then last but not least at the moment, the newcomer as of the round at Spa, Nath 1981, only on 50 points, and Nath in the Red Bull liveried BMW M4 representing Red Bull Racing will be doing his utmost to try and get some solid points on the board and trying to get up into the championship battles in Division 1. Nath only joining us a round ago, I should say. It feels like a week ago, but only a round ago. And we'll see what Nath is able to achieve. Now, in terms of time, we have got 5 minutes to go before we get underway with qualifying, and we're just going to take you around the circuit to give you an idea of what a lap around here is like. And we are going to find a driver who is coming to the end of their lap right now, and I believe that is going to be one Philo, who is coming to the end of his current lap. So we're going to hop on board with Philo and take you around the circuit. So 13 corners, a short circuit, Sardinia Road Track B, but a very challenging one for GT4 cars. Coming out the final corner, wanting to get the best possible launch out of the combination of turns 12 and 13, and you're going to see that Philo is going to hold over to the left-hand side of the start-finish straight as he charges up the hill towards turn 1. Now turn 1 is a downhill braking zone, it's a left-hander, heavy braking zone here, going to be braking at approximately the 100 metre board, slamming on the brakes and coming down to turn 1, coming all the way down to second gear, hooking the car onto the apex curb there, and now coming through 2 and 3, a fast sweeper chicane here where he doesn't have to worry about braking, just needs to get the throttle planted and turning nicely for turn 3, running down towards turn number 4, the uphill left-hander who's going to brake at the start of the entry curb, coming down to second gear, some drivers will go for third gear and then extending the car out on the uphill run, and now down into the right-hander here, which we know as the Italian carousel, in the fact that it resembles the carousel corners from the Nordschleife circuit, and making his way through there very nicely, balancing on the throttle through 6 and through 7, the two left-handers here where he's completely flat out, ending the first half of the circuit, and now coming into the very difficult turn 8, the sharp right-hander here braking very early at that 100 board, coming all the way down to second gear, and it's an uphill corner as well as you go through that apex, and you have to balance the steering out with the throttle application. Now into a double left-hander known as windmill corner, which is turns 9 and 10, goes a little bit wide out into the gravel and actually gets hooked over the gravel. That is very unfortunate for Philo, who was shaping up a very nice lap there, just pushing the limits a little too much. But the idea of turns 9 and 10, you want to get out onto that exit curb and then use that to rotate the car through 10 and up the hill. But meanwhile, as we look further around, we're just going to try and find another driver who can complete our reference lap, and that will be D10 Piper, who can complete our reference lap for you. We've also got Descriver here making his way around behind. But what you're going to see as we hop on board with the British driver here, making his way out these two corners then got the uphill left-hander of turn 11, where the idea is that it's a throttle lift, no need to brake, just need to balance that throttle gently on the apex, and now come up into 12 and 13, the left into right combination here where you use the billboards on the right hand side as your braking point, and then getting it nicely hooked over the apex curvature. You want to ride that apex curve as much as possible, and then completely straight line turn 13, and that way you come across the start finish line here, a fast lap. We're expecting laps in the region of about 1 minute 24, 1 minute 25, we're looking as low as possible into those 124s for pole, and that is going to be a case of, well, it's going to be fast, furious, and as we look around here, just checking to see whether there's been anything else that's happened in the meantime in terms of things getting organised. We seem to be pretty much set to go for our Division 1 and Alien League drivers here, and now the countdown is going to get underway with 2 minutes to go for qualifying. But the thing about this circuit as well, in terms of qualifying, do you want slipstream around here? The argument would be yes, particularly when you go down that start-finish straight, and also in the run out of 5 up towards turn number 8. And the simple reason for that is because you can gain a huge amount of time through the slipstream, particularly in GT4 class cars, because they haven't got the fastest of acceleration, so you've got a long time between each sequence of corners. And that's the best way to think about Road Track B at Sardinia. It is essentially free. Well, not even 3 really, it's only 2 sequences of corners. The first sequence is from turn 1 all the way through to turn 5, and then you've got a long run down towards the second sequence, which is turn 8 all the way through to turn 13. The idea being that you want to have the toe as you go through the sections that join those 2 sequences together to get you the most time. But of course, then you need to be wary of the fact when you're going into the heavy braking zones, particularly at turns 1 and 8, that being in that dirty air is going to extend your braking quite a bit, because you're going to have that extra speed, and also the car isn't going to be as steady on turning, what the fact you've got the dirty air affecting the aerodynamics. Now, we do have a couple more drivers who've just arrived. We have Luke Doherty, 94, the Alien League driver here, who, as we mentioned earlier on, is currently sat in P5 in the standings of Alien League on 80 points. And after a DNF in race number 2 at Spa, a very difficult time last time out at Spa for Luke Doherty, we're looking forward to seeing what he's able to achieve tonight, coming back refreshed into the second half of the season. And I do not think we have GTP's Rick WRX at the moment. No, we definitely do not. So we don't have Rick here. We do have Philo currently parked up at what is turn number 10 on the apex curve of turn number 10. A little bit risky there, but I think he likes to live dangerously. And the only other drivers we are missing other than Rick right now, well, no, we do have everybody here. I believe it's only Rick who we're missing. So we've got 4 Alien League drivers and our full complement of 9 Division 1 drivers. Now, we are due to get underway at any moment now for qualifying, so feel free to start placing your bets who's going to be on pole as qualifying counts down. We're going to have 10 minutes. Who's going to be on pole by the end of it? It's anyone's bet. So as we kick off with qualifying then, all of our drivers waiting to get out of the pits. It is going to be Luke Doherty, by the looks of things, who is going to be our first driver out of the pit lane. The dark Smoker-mobile there, making its way up towards turn number 1, and I think Luke might be feeling that he's going to have a little pack of cars all hungry to use his slipstream, although he may be thinking to himself right now, perhaps not as fast as the guys behind me, and maybe I'll lift out of it. As we can see all of our drivers feverishly trying to keep up with one another here, because they recognise the fact that you've got quite a few laps that you can get in with the 10 minutes, but also slipstream is a very valuable tool here, as we do see that Sparks has already backed out of things a little bit. In fact, he's parked up the car on the entry into turn number 3, I think giving himself some space out on track. So I think Sparks is going for a clean air lap to begin with, whereas some of the drivers up front, you can see how they're all packing together already, particularly Philo, who is quite tight in behind Luke Mitchell here, and I think a number of our drivers will be looking to immediately qualify with slipstream, whereas Sparks is going for a different approach and trying to qualify without slipstream. But we're going to keep our eyes on Doherty as he makes his way uphill now in towards Windmill Corner, and this will be the end of his warm-up lap and going on to his first flying lap. As you can see him drifting it there into the apex of turn 9, not using the full width of the circuit there through 10, but you don't necessarily need to in order to get the best possible lap out of there. You normally want to open the steering up as much as possible if you feel as though you've taken one of those wide angles across 9, whereas if you've taken the tighter angle, then you'll exit tight. Now in terms of track limits, as Luke comes out of turn 13, if our drivers put all 4 wheels beyond the curb of 13, they'll be picking up a half-second penalty. But we jump on board then for our first flying out, as led by Doherty 94. So making his way up towards turn 1 then, up in the 6th gear right now. None of our drivers should be using the 7th gear, we reckon, for this circuit. Coming down into the first corner, you'll see he's going to hook it on 2nd gear there to get the best possible tight line over the apex, and then we're flying through turns 2 and 3. It should be a simple case here, although he does have to lift out the throttle because he did misanticipate by the looks of things how tight the apex of 3 comes after 2. You have to get turning in very early there for turn 3. It can catch a lot of drivers out, and Doherty is being caught out by that as he comes through 4. A nice flow through 4 and now up into 5. He's going to have to be patient on the throttle, just build that throttle on exit, make sure the car doesn't run too wide out into the gravel trap there, and now coming charging down through turns 6 and 7. Full throttle here, he's going to be fully committed, going as wide as possible out of 6, using the full width of the circuit to straight line 7, and now charging into the braking zone for turn 8. He needs to now, this will be stamping down through the gears, the shifts are coming down on the flappy paddle gearbox, and now coming up towards turns 9 and 10 here. Will he nail the turning point for 9 as he goes in on that apex curve and then flicks it in his 2nd gear? I think Luke just needs a little bit more time with that corner, because I think he just needs to build up a bit of confidence in getting to know how that corner flows there. But still, he held it together. A nice run for 11, and now coming up into the final pairing of corners, 12 and 13. Goes a little bit wide on 13, and this is going to be an aborted lap, because that is going to be a half-second penalty for track limits as he missed the apex of 13. So without further ado then, it's Luke Doherty across the line to set our target time of 1:27.4, but immediately, as we would expect, Gino Demo goes faster with a 1:25.8. Philo only sitting at a 1:25.9 there. Matthew Lambert already a second faster than everybody else who's set time so far. We're 1:24.8, and the gaps are coming down as more and more drivers are coming across the line. You can see how many drivers have tried to use slipstream off of other drivers here, and the lap times are coming in a very fast order. But we're going to see right now that Sparks Fury with a 1:24.0, and that looks as though that was done in clear air as well. Sparks setting the bar very high, and we saw our fastest times in the final practice session were 1:24.7s as set by Matthew Lambert. Well, that is a 1:24.0, and I think Sparks will reckon he can get into the 23s with a little bit of refinement or even a bit of toe. But that is a sensational lap. But this is continuing the form that we have seen over the course of the last couple of rounds, which is Sparks seems to set the indicative pace, and it's Matthew Lambert who's the lead of the rest. The British driver of 24.8, 4.5 tenths ahead of D10 Piper, who is our first driver in the lowest portion of the 25s, a 25.347 for D10 Piper, and Sparks has returned to the pits to get a fresh pair of tyres on. As we can see that Dusk Ivor right now at 25.6. The gap in our midfield being extremely tight in the high 25s right now, with Gino Demo on a 25.8. All of our drivers flying through the final corner then in that sequence once again. And let's see how Doherty improves. Not picking up a penalty this time. And Doherty comes across the line with a 27.6 once again, as we can see that Philo improving to a 25.5 and Matthew Lambert improving to a 24.5 as he returns to the pits. And we can see that Philo now up into provisional P4 as all of our lap times are coming in fast. Martin not having the best of times right now, as we see he's only on a 26.2. Martin seemingly struggling a little bit with qualifying pace in his BMW, as we'd expect him to be further up the field, perhaps not feeling as comfortable at this circuit compared to some of his peers. This might be a bit of a day for damage recovery from Martin as they're making their way, damage retention I should say, as they make their way through turns 4. Once again, Martin just ahead of what appears to be D10 Piper, and Piper right now having a field day in qualifying, it would seem, as he makes his way down into turn number 5 with the rather adult liveried BMW there. I'm not sure how much that we're allowed to show on camera, but still, we are going to show it all the same. Now charging down the hill here, and he's actually been cleared. He's managed to clear Martin, who's pulled out the way for D10. So I think D10 is on a flyer here. We're going to stay with the British driver as he makes his way up into turn 8 for the 4th time of asking in terms of qualifying, this being his 3rd flying out. He goes a little bit too aggressive on the throttle out of turn 8, send him into the gravel, and this is going to be an aborted lap. That's so unfortunate for D10, using the full width of the circuit, and you can see how much time he's trying to find around here. The confidence is there, it's just keeping it on the circuit right now, and it's so easy to make a mistake out of turn number 8 because you're encouraged to get on that throttle aggressively, but the uphill turn means that you essentially launch the car over the apex, and that can send it into the gravel. As we see Sir Bertus improving to a 25.7 on his recent flying lap, the Dutchman close to P6 right now, only half a tenth off of De Skyver, and this shows you how close it is in qualifying right now between all of our drivers as they make their way around the circuit. We're just going to clear some of that data off your screen for you in terms of that telemetry data. Now it's been cleared away, and Bertus really trying to find his way up into what is the 25.5s, I reckon, right now, because that would give him a really good position in terms of being on the top 5 in his respective qualifying grid. As we see Sparks not improving at this time and continue to make his way around as we bring out all the data once again for you folks. As we bring all the data back up so you can see everybody's times as they're being set. Matthew Lambert not able to improve right now, and actually find himself held up by Nath on his qualifying lap here, and this is very unfortunate. And Nath going wide. Oh goodness me, and Matthew Lambert having cat-like reflexes there to dodge Nath, almost completely knocking Matthew Lambert out as well. But Nath doing a very good job there to collect the car after going wide out of turn 5. You love to see a 360-degree turn by Nath, and he did a very good job. Nath being second to last at the moment provisionally with a 126.4, and D-Cast bringing up the rear of the field right now. The Monster Energy liveried BMW with a 126.7, 2.5 tenths down on Nath, and it looks like these drivers will be looking to make repair work in the race in terms of their pace. But we'll wait and see and find out, of course, as we've still got 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go in this qualifying session. So most of our drivers will have 2 more laps to go as a minimum in this qualifying session, as Martin improves to P3 with a 125.3. Although it's not the 24s, Martin back up towards the front of the Division 1 qualifying times now, and Martin will want to have that simply because he can't afford to let Lambert run away with Division 1 at the start of the second half of the season. And Luke Mitchell improving to a 24.5. Well, where enough has that come from? Luke Mitchell setting a phenomenal time there, and we didn't get to see him in the driver's introduction, of course, because he joined the lobby a little bit late. But the second of our 2 Lukes there doing a fantastic job in the Alien League. Luke Mitchell, of course, being the driver right now who is leading in the battle of the 2 Lukes in the Alien League, of course, and we can see that he is on a fly. He's 4.5 tenths down on Sparks Theory, but I think he'll feel comfortable right now that he has set the pace for second place in the Alien League in terms of how they'll line up on that starting grid. Now, we will be waiting to see. We've still got 1 minute and 10 seconds to go or so, which means most of our drivers will now start to come on to their final qualifying laps if they're not already on them. We can see that Sparks right now and Matthew Lambert running around in effective formation. And Lambert, I think, trying to use a bit of toe off of Sparks here in order to improve his lap as much as possible. As we say hello to Zeronic in the chat and to anyone else who is still there but is too shy to say hi. And we can see that Sparks getting it wrong and immediately returning to the pits, getting out of the way of Lambert, and Lambert cutting as much turn 9 as Martin improves to a 24.8. So the noose is tightening between Martin and Lambert right now in terms of those times, as Lambert is on a warm-up lap, in fact. And we can see that Philo has improved. The Alien League driver has improved to a 25.1, which won't put him too close to Luke Mitchell, who's in those 24s, but it will put him into P3 of the Alien League right now. And De Skyver improving to a 25.2, and a lot of our drivers now opting to run their laps in clear air, and I think that's where the improvements are coming. The fact our drivers are not having to fight against the dirty air and the understeer invoked through some of the sweeper corners here, and that will prove invaluable to their lap time as all of our drivers are making their way around. Sparks will not be setting any more laps, of course, having returned to the pits. Nor will Luke Mitchell as we look around then, and our first driver to complete their final qualifying lap, as we're just trying to find them out of the circuit, will be Luke Doherty, who right now is on a 26 26.4. He's not had the best of qualifying sessions, has Luke, and I think, in fact, he's put on the hazard lights here, and I think he's trying to say to the drivers, look, I am aborting my final qualifying lap, and it will be Sir Bertus instead who will be bringing around the field for their final flying lap times, as he goes a little bit wide there out of 11, but keeps two wheels on the circuit, and that's enough to give him the grip. He goes a bit deep into 12, but he snaps it back together. A nice recovery there by Sir Bertus. Is this going to be an improved lap? He's going to straight line it to the end. Behind him is Martin, as we see he comes across the line, then Sir Bertus, and does not improve. What about Martin here? Does he improve? It's a 24.7 Martin, only 1.5 tenths off of Matthew Lambert, so it's very close between the pair of them as Philo comes around the final corner and goes very sideways and decides to head into the pit wall there. I think that's a little bit of a mistake by the British driver, as we see then Descriver is going to straight line it down towards the start-finish timing line, and is it going to be a 24 from him? It's not quite. It's still a 25.2. As we see even more drivers coming across the line right now, and I think it's Decast is the final one of our drivers to come through on a flyer here, unless I'm mistaken. And Decast, can he improve and get himself off of the back row of the grid for Division 1 and get himself out of that provisional last place? I don't think it's going to happen. This is not looking a good lap. So there is your qualifying order, ladies and gentlemen. Sparks Fury with the pole time of a 24.0. 4.5 tenths clear of his main competitor in Alien League, Luke Mitchell, right now. And I say main competitor in terms of lap time here, Luke Mitchell with what was in the end a 24.508, and Matthew Lambert will be our pole sitter for League 1, or Division 1 we should say, with in the end what was a 24.5 as well. So that is qualifying complete, and now we are going to be essentially doing a very quick test race. And once we've completed the test race to make sure everybody can get off the grid, we will be resetting the grid for race number 1. It was very close between Lambert and Martin in the end, the two only being separated by 1.5 tenths, and that continues the form we have seen up and down throughout the first half of the season. As it's lights out and away we go for our drivers in what is expected. Yep, we immediately crashed the race there. So that is going to be the end of the practice start. Everybody was able to pull off the line we saw. And now we're going to wait for the lobby to reopen. And then we're going to get underway with setting the grid. And race number 1 should be coming at you within the next 5 minutes, folks. Well, look, it was a very good qualifying time, to be fair. A very solid qualifying time. I think you've got a good chance of perhaps charging down Sparks into turn 1. We're just waiting for that lobby to reopen, of course. So you can see Lambert also in the Twitch chat right now with a very solid lap and commenting on Luke Mitchell's phenomenal lap for P2 in the Alien League. And there's our lobby. It is back open. As we're just informing our drivers via the Facebook chat group that the lobby is back open again. And Martin commenting in the chat that he had a great launch there. Of course, now it's all going to come down to the real start and the real launch, where it's going to matter the most. So whilst we're waiting for the grid to be set, we can see that some of our drivers are getting practice starts in. For example, D10 Piper here getting a quick practice start in. So we see Lambert also doing a practice start. And a number of our drivers seemingly commenting on the fact they don't know the track too well. So that's going to make things interesting. Well, we will have to, of course, wait and see. Because at the end of the day, one of the things is as well, if a driver doesn't know the track from the start, some drivers can be very adept at learning the circuit over the course of the 2 10-minute races, and suddenly find that they go from being at the back of the pack to having pace to contest the front of the pack. As we've just seen a couple of drivers making some practice starts, others getting used to running around on the circuit now. Once again, getting as much practice in before we get underway and the grid is fully set, and we can see Sir Bertus doing so, chasing Matthew Lambert around the circuit. The Listerine mobile here of Sir Bertus, of course, brilliant livery. We can see Luke there mentioning down in the paddock that his arms are tired because he's been building a fence for the last 2 days. And hopefully his arms won't take any offence at being forced to drive hard tonight. As we can see, Luke Mitchell and Piper both having a little bit of a drag race in reverse on that start-finish line right now. And Martin joining them by looks of things. It's always good to see our drivers having a little bit of a laugh before we get underway, and that's what the Sunday League's all about as well. It's just as much about the championship as drivers having a friendly competitive atmosphere, which Next Gen Racing provides to drivers both new and experienced. So if of course you are watching right now and thinking, well, where can I sign up? Well, you can always reach out to myself. Alternatively, look up Next Gen Racing out on Facebook, because we are a community that is growing. And we have been growing for a good number of years, and there's tons of friendly faces who can help point you in the right direction. We've got leagues for everything, whether it be GT Sport, Assetto Corsa, you name it, but we focus on GT Sport here on the Sunday, and we can see all our drivers getting ready to go right now. And I've been there myself. I get the feeling that a number of drivers right now will be just getting that overall itch and just wanting to go charging. Now, what can we expect in the race start? Well, we've got a good run down towards turn 1. It's an uphill run as well, so getting the best possible start here is critical, because what you don't want to do is bog down on the launch, because as you start to go into that uphill, bogging down is going to be felt even more. It gets amplified, and you're going to see probably a number of drivers start to pull over to the left-hand side as soon as possible, because of the fact that we've got a very tight line into turn 1. And at the same time, whilst turn 1 does offer overtaking opportunities, it's more of a position whereby if you leave the door open on the inside, drivers will try to send it normally down into the corner, because normally you brake at 100 metres. In these cars, from the race start, we're probably seeing cars brake at about 70 to 60 metres instead. But with that, we've had the confirmation from Gino that we will be getting underway very shortly. So all of our drivers will be readied up, and we will be a go, go, go for race number 1. As I take a quick sip of water before it kicks off. So we're just waiting out for the countdown, and there it is, ladies and gentlemen. So race 1 is about to kick off. 10 minutes. Who's going to be at the front come the end of it? Let's find out. So as we pan down to the grid then, it's Sparks Fury joined alongside by Luke Mitchell as they're going to be kicking off the Alien League, whereas behind it will be Matthew Lambert and Martin line up side by side in the battle for Division 1, continuing from where they left off 2 weeks ago. One red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go. And Martin jumping the start immediately and getting a full start check penalty as a result, as we can also see while the rear driver's getting it very wrong there at the back of the field. Sparks really getting the best launch of anybody at the front of the grid for me, Martin. They're all charging down towards turn 1 immediately. And Luke Mitchell finding they have to go defensive versus Philo, but Philo squeezes to the inside into turn 1, giving Mitchell space on the outside as Descriver goes wide. And it's 4 wide through turn 2 as they settle down into an order. Philo and Mitchell still side by side through 2 and 3. But as we continue to look on here, we can see that Mitchell has got the momentum down into 4. Philo looks to the inside but can't quite make the move, but he makes sure that Mitchell is aware of the fact. Mitchell goes a little bit wide there but brings it under control, but this is giving Sparks the opportunity to break away, as Sparks is already 1 second clear of the battle for P2. We can see that Luke Doherty is in P4 right now after having a difficult start, and Matthew Lambert in P5 where he was at the start, and Martin with that full start in P6. He's made his way back up the field, mind you, as we see that then we have got a second pack of cars with D-Cast leading that second pack in P7 right now, as we've got a yellow flag at turn 8. Now what has happened here? We've got multiple cars off. It is absolute pandemonium, but we can see that we've got Martin, we've got also, I think that's Luke Doherty caught out somewhere there, as Doherty has retired from the race, so that car is already out of the race. That is very unfortunate for Doherty, who's had a very bad run, and I think he's already retired completely. I don't think there's been connectivity issues of what's happened, but the race continues nonetheless. We will take a look back at that very shortly for you, ladies and gentlemen. Sparks Fury currently leads after lap 1 by 2.2 seconds ahead of Theodore Philo, who is being hounded by Matthew Lambert. This is a repeat of what we saw at Spa last time out, as they all charge up through the hill right now. Matthew Lambert side by side with Philo as they come down into turn 1, and Lambert looks at the cutback from the outside to inside, but Philo blocks it off, as we then see Luke Mitchell in P4 leading the rest of our drivers right now. Skyver in P5, D-Cast in P6, Nath in P7. Nath having a very strong start, in fact going from P11 all the way up to P7 with everything that's kicked off, and D10 Piper in P8 battling with Nath down into turn 4 right now, but I don't think Piper's got the move here as Nath goes into the corner. No, there's no chance for Piper to try and send it up the inside. Then in P9 it's Sir Bertus, followed by Gino Dermer, and then last but not least right now, after that major incident, Martin JL09. Well, how it's gone from good to bad to disastrous so far, and let's take a look back at what happened. So in fact, we're going to look at it in terms of Luke Mitchell right now. So looking at Luke, and I think there might have been some connection issues we're hearing for Luke, Luke Doherty, as we look back then from Mitchell's car. They're going to come into the corner, and Doherty just literally careens into the corner like a bullet. And that sends everybody flying. So Doherty there, we're not sure what happened, whether it was connection issues by the sounds of things or whether it's faulty equipment, but Doherty just came in like a bullet into turn 8, and that's what caused things to break open like that, because Mitchell, the second of the two Lukes, was having a field day there and it all went wrong. But meanwhile, in that battle for P2, it looks like Matthew Lambert has dropped away from Philo after lap number 2 as we come on to lap number 3, and Mitchell has broken away from the rest of the field, and it's Descriver now who is leading this pack that's chasing after the leaders in the battle for P5. Descriver ahead of Nathan D10 Piper, and we can see that D-Cast is just a little bit out of camera shot there as they come down into turn 1. We've got Descriver versus Nath. Nath pushed to the outside, and we can see that D10 Piper using that as an opportunity to size up the inside. A smart move from Piper there, making his way up the inside and picking up P6, but Nath will want to come back, of course. But I think Nath will be playing it with two minds here. He'll want to play it safe to get some solid points on the board with everything that's kicked off, as we see Sir Bertus in P8 right now, not really able to gain too much on the pack in front, but just holding onto that P8 and trying to keep the momentum going as he makes his way through the Italian carousel for the third time of asking, and now comes down the hill in the long run to turn 8, and you can see all our drivers spacing out a little bit in that battle for P8 right now, as meanwhile here up front in that battle for P5, Describer, D10 Piper and Nath all going into turn 8 right now, and nobody trying to move right now, although Describer goes deep on the brakes and D10 Piper gets the momentum up the hill, but it's a short uphill run, and Describer goes defensive on the inside through 9. And I think D10 right now just can't seem to find a way through as they make their way uphill through turn 11 then, and now coming it through to 12. Will D10 Piper try and go for a move into 12? I think he's going to look for it, but then think second of it, because if he's got the momentum down into turn 1 on lap number 4, he's going to have a strong argument as Nath goes very wide there, and I think that's going to be a track limits penalty of half a second as he comes. No, in fact, he kept it on the circuit, Nath. Nath had a huge amount of momentum out 13 there. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Describer defends the inside. Nath is pushing pushing Describer along a little bit. They go 3 wide into turn 1 on lap 4. Nath on the inside, Describer in the middle, and D10 turns into Describer, but Describer's there defending D10 to make sure it's not a double loss, but D10 gets it done anyway. But what a move by Nath. That was a huge move down into turn 1, and D10 Piper immediately coming at Nath into turn 4. He looks to the inside versus Nath. Nath gives him the room, and D10 Piper gains the place. This is forward to be a brilliant battle, and Sir Burtis in the rear of your camera shot now is getting into this battle. So we're going to have a 4-way battle for P5 over the course of the rest of this race, and we're only halfway through as they all come down towards turn 6. D10 and Nath side by side out of 5, now through 6 and coming up into 7 and 8. Who's going to hold on there? They're still side by side down into turn 8 now. Surely Nath's not going to have this as he goes into the corner, and he just makes the corner. That is some brave braking there by Nath, and credit to Piper for respecting as they're 4 wide up into the windmill corner, and it's Nath who emerges ahead of the pack of 3. Well, this is absolutely crazy stuff as we look back right now from Nath's car, and you can see they're all kicking off behind, and we look over to D10 Piper then as we look to the exterior, and Sir Burtis is trying to find a way through. He's made his way past the sky with the 3 wide scenario up into turns 9 and 10, but this is absolutely cracking stuff as they're charging across the start finish line to commence lap number 5, and you love to see it as they're coming up the hill now, and we can see that Nathan's broken away a little bit, and Sir Burtis having to go defensive versus Describer. Now will Describer try and go for the cutback, or will he ferry it round the outside? He's going to try for the outside here, and he makes it work, does Describer. A very brave move. Sir Burtis giving him the respect as well. Great to see as we can see that Gino Demo behind has got past E-Cast up into P9, but it's feeling a lot of pressure for his fellow countrymen as they make their way up into turn 4 for the 5th time of asking. And I don't think it's going to be long. Oh, and Martin tries to find a way through the inside of D-Cast and gets it done at 4. D-Cast getting a little bit of oversteer through the corner apex there, and Martin capitalising on that to gain a position. Meanwhile, up front, Sparks 3, 4.6 seconds ahead of Philo, who's under a lot of pressure right now from Matthew Lambert. Lambert putting pressure on the Alien League drivers like there's no tomorrow. I think he always try to say to them, look, next season I want to be in the Alien League racing you guys, as they make their way through turn 11. They're side by side for 11, and Philo goes wide, and he has to regain the position on track, and he falls back into 3rd place as Lambert has gained the position. But will Philo come back? Only time will tell as Luke Mitchell looks on in a lonely 4th place right now. Nath, meanwhile, in P5, he'll be loving this, but he won't be loving the fact that he's got D10 Piper over his backside, as Piper is getting ever closer once again. And we look back from Nath's car right now as they're charging down towards the start-finish straight, and they'll be coming up towards turn 1 in short order. But you can see how Piper is gradually building that momentum. What the slipstream off of Nath's car. He looks to the inside here. He's going to try and creep out the inside, but Nath making that door as tight as possible, only opening the door open into that braking zone, and Nath very confident on the brakes versus Piper that time round, as we see Sir Burtis in a similar situation to Nath battling with the Skyver for P7. I think in the case of Sir Burtis, he won't want to fight too hard because he won't want to lose out on an opportunity to potentially pick up a P5 or a P6, as we see D10 trying to find every which way to be a nuisance to Nath by just trying to put his nose on the inside before the braking zone for 4, and then backing out of it to try and get Nath to make an error, which of course is all legal in this racing, ladies and gentlemen. We race with the FIA rules, and so long as he doesn't trigger an incident, it's fine. Oh no, and Martin's into the wall once again. What has happened to our Division 1 driver? One of our leading Division 1 drivers. That's a disaster for Martin. So he's coming into the Italian carousel now. Does he just go wide, or was there some contact? Well, there was a little bit of contact, and Gino, well, I'm not sure if there was contact or a little bit of a rub, but Martin goes out to the gravel and then skids across the circuit. It's going to be a disaster for Martin as they make their way onto lap number 7. Well, I say Sparks makes his way onto lap number 7, and Philo is chasing down Matthew Lambert. That gap is 1.1 seconds and slowly closing as Describer makes a move on Sir Burtis here, and he's got it done into turn 12. I think Sir Burtis went very deep there, and now coming up the hill once again. It's the final lap for our drivers now, or at least this battle for P5. It will definitely be the final lap. They all go up the hill for the final time, asking him, does D10 go for the move early? He looks for it. He's going to try and squeeze it in as we've got yellow flags. Hold on a second. What's happened to Luke Mitchell? And Nath goes sideways through the corner. Now, was that overtake made under yellow flags? Because if so, D10 Piper could be subject to a penalty. It doesn't look like it's happened. But what happened to Mitchell as Nath has lost all momentum, and now Describer goes to the move, but he's gone very deep on the brakes. Describer with too much momentum, and Nath returns to P6. We won't find out what's happened to Luke Mitchell now, folks. We've got to focus on the action that's here and now instead, but you can see that D10 is pulling away, and can Nath hold on to P6? He'd love to hold on to it. That'd be a solid result. as he makes his way down through the hill right now. D10 having cleared away. They all come up towards turn 8 here, and I think Nafe's going to be safe here unless the Skyver goes to the mother of all lunges. But speaking of results and points, Sparks Fury comes out the final corner to pick up the win in race number 1. 7.4 seconds clear of the field. A brilliant drive as always by Sparks as he makes his way across the line. And in fact, he's going on to one more lap, so Sparks will be the only driver to do an 8th lap. Matthew Lambert home in P2, holding off Philo. Meanwhile, in P4, it's going to be Luke Mitchell as he makes his way out of the final corner, bringing it home in P4. And we can see in the rear of your camera shot there's D10 Piper coming home in P5, and it's Nafe who holds on to P6 just about as they come across the line here. Nafe beating Descriver to the line, Sir Bertus in P8, Decast in P9. There's going to be Martin who's recovered to P10, but this has been a disastrous race one, and then it's going to be Gino behind Martin rounding off our field as he makes his way across in P number 11. But Sparks Fury will be finishing the race last of all of our drivers, but of course he is on that 8th lap. And I think all our drivers will be a little bit disgruntled that Sparks managed to creep an 8th lap out of things, but still credit to Sparks for being able to do it with only a second left on the clock as he makes his way up the hill and is going to complete our racing order in short order. And a dominant display by Sparks in race number 1, but of course it'll be completely flipped around for race number 2 with the reverse grid with the Alien League and also the Division 1 guys starting separate from one another, but it's reverse grids in each group. And Sparks comes out of the final corner for the final time in race number 1 and completes our first race of this evening. Congratulations to all of our drivers, of course, but to our race winner in particular, Sparks Fury for the Alien League and Matthew Lambert for winning the Division 1 race. Well, that was some fantastic racing and a great way to kick off the second half of the season. There was a little bit of argy-bargy at the start, but here are your race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. Sparks Fury picking up the win within the Alien League group. Matthew Lambert in second place picking up the win in Division 1. Philo in third there picking up what is second place in the Alien League, and Luke Mitchell in fourth rounding off the podium for our Alien League drivers. D10 Piper with that fifth place picking up what is effectively the second place of Division 1, and then Nath rounding off the podium for Division 1 with a sixth place finish. Great results, and the fastest lap went to Sparks with a 1:24.308 on lap number 5. Not the fastest lap we've seen tonight. The fastest lap has been a 1:24.0 in qualifying so far, but coming close to it, and you never know what could happen in race number 2. But now we're going to be waiting for the grid to be set up, and then we'll be getting underway once again. But great battling throughout. But that was a disaster for who was Luke Doherty with that incident there. And I think Luke has retired because of the fact he's having those connectivity issues, in his opinion. So we're not going to be seeing too much of Doherty in tonight's remaining races, but we'll hope to see him back on the field next week, of course. But really what was demonstrated there was just how important getting a good run down to turn 1 on the opening of the race was, but also being able to focus on trying to break away from the field. Because we saw so many moments where essentially drivers would be battling for position into turn 1 or into turn 8, and a brilliant battle between D10 Piper and Nath there. The two drivers really going toe to toe, and we look forward to seeing even more from them over the course of race 2, of which I'm certain. But the driver who's got a lot to recover from now will be Martin Jallo9 with that disastrous result there. He won't have wanted that. He'll know that's giving Matthew Lambert the opportunity to pull away in Division 1 for the Division 1 lead, and he'll need to get the best possible result. And he'll of course be starting towards the front. He'll be starting second place of our Division 1 drivers in race number 2, what of it being reverse grid, so he will have that advantage to get the points back. An absolute cracking start to the second half of the season for our Division 1 drivers and our Alien League drivers here, and you love to see it. I think some of our drivers laughing right now at what happened on lap number 1 down into turn number 8, where we saw Luke Doherty's car literally turn into a missile through the corner. But I think we will be due to get underway with race number 2, probably within the next 2 to 3 minutes once we've got that grid set. So we are just patiently waiting right now. All of our drivers, of course, parked up in the pit, raring to get underway with the final race of tonight. You can see that Sparks right now making his way out of the pits. I'm very grateful to Sparks for doing this because we don't want the camera glitch that can happen. And of course, we would love to see some more cars out of the pit lane. Oh, there we go. We've got Sir Bertus following suit right now. And in fact, we are ready to go then with race number 2. We'll be getting the countdown any moment soon. So you see Sir Bertus deciding to do a little bit of a burnout and a bit of wheel spin. Some donuts may be in order as well from the Dutch driver. I don't think those racing soft tyres on the rear of that car are going to be too pleased by the end of this, as he is burning that rubber. But here we go then, ladies and gentlemen. Race number 2. The countdown has begun. Who will come out on top and get the maximum points come the end of the final 10 minutes of racing tonight? Let's find out. So as we pan down to the grid, we can see there is MMR Luke Mitchell and TNR Philo on the front row for the Alien League drivers, and it will be Gino Demmer and Martin JL09 on the front row for our Division 1 drivers. And it's lights out and away we go once again, and we can see D-Cast bogging down massively on the start there as all of our drivers get away. Sparks getting a reasonable start. Philo having the better start out of the two guys on the front row, and we can see that Mitchell finds himself in a sandwich between Philo and Sparks right now. He won't want to be the fill-in for that as they all come free wide down into turn 1. Martin going a little bit deep on the brakes and contacting the rear of Philo slightly, but I think there's no major incident out of it as we see Martin has had a good start from the front row of the Division 1 drivers, and this is exactly what he will have wanted. As meanwhile, up front, Sparks has got the move done, the double move on Mitchell and Philo, whatever the fact he was on the inside, so he's already starting to make a little bit of a break here as we see Martin is doing the same as well, as Bertus has got past Gino Demmer and is up into P5. Behind though in the rearview camera shot, we can see that Matthew Lambert already siphoned his way through the field. He's got past D-Cast and D10 Piper, and what on earth has happened to our last place driver, Skyver? Let's find out, who is all the way down the back of the field. He's coming up into turn 4 then. And I think there was contact, Matthew Lambert, and, well, I'm not sure what's happened there, to be honest. I think Matthew Lambert contacted the back of Skyver, and then Skyver rebounded off of Nath with the pinball physics. But nonetheless, as they're making their way through a windmill corner right now, through turns 9 and 10 and up into 11, I think that's going to be looked at by the stewards afterwards, what happened with Skyver. As he makes his way across the curb there down to turn 12, Sparks has got Luke Mitchell in the rear view mirror, and Mitchell is trying to find a way back into that fight for the lead right now, as we can see that he broke away, and Philo coming under huge pressure here. I think Philo's had a little bit of an off somewhere, because we can see that Martin is getting past him. So after one lap, it is Sparks Fury ahead of Luke Mitchell. Then we've got 2 seconds back to Martin, who is leading the battle for third right now, with TNR Philo chasing after him. They're all coming up into turn 1 once again, and Philo looks to the inside under braking. He goes for it. He tries to get himself alongside just to make the space. He does so, and he gets the place back. Martin down to P4 as a result of that. Bertus in P5. And chasing after Martin like a bad rash right now. And Gino in P6. He's got Nathan Matthew Lambert trying to get in there, as we see Sir Bertus going side by side with Martin through turn 4. He goes to move up the inside and he gets it done. But you do have to wonder at this point how valuable that move's going to be, given the fact we are going to be having even more carnage, I'm sure, down into turn 8. And when I say carnage, I mean controlled overtaking, as we see Gino in P6 right now. Nathan behind him, and Gino having to work it like mad right now to hold off the fast charging Red Bull driver as they're making their way up towards turn 8. Will there be a move from Nath? There's no attempt, but there is an attempt from Martin versus Sir Bertus, and he's got the place back. But of course, that's cost them both so much momentum up the hill, and you can see the gap to Philo has opened up to 1.1 seconds, albeit only for a short order of the corner. But that gap has opened up so much because of that overtaking maneuver, and overtaking into turn 8 is such a dangerous prospect because it costs you so much time compared to the guy in front. As we see behind that Nath looks at the move on Gino. He can't get it into 12, but he finds himself offline, and Gino goes a little bit deep. see there's Matthew Lambert carries the momentum through, and Lambert, I think he's going to get for 2-for-1 special on order here as he makes his way past Nath. Gino hasn't quite got the momentum right now, and meanwhile up front we can see that Luke Mitchell has got a burner penalty under braking into turn 1 for track limits at turn 13 on lap number 2. As they're on lap number 3 right now, we see that Sir Bert is having to defend versus Gino. He shuts the door on Gino on the apex there, and as they make their way through 2, 3 and up into 4 right now, Bert is starting to fall back from Martin and feeling pressure from the 3 drivers behind. As Martin, I say that, and Martin goes into the wall, grazing the wall at turn 4 and entry, and it was... Thank goodness. And Martin having a real nightmare with that car right now. Really struggling to get it straight on the narrow. I think flash noise hazard lights there. Something is going very wrong with that BMW as he's dropping down the order, and that's why he's Sir Bertus up into P4, and Martin now finds himself losing places left, right and centre as Gino has got himself up into P5 and is now being attacked by Matthew Lambert up into turn 8. Lambert goes to the inside. I think it's going to be a standard move here, although Matthew Lambert gets collected by the back of Gino's car. Oh, that is a disaster for Lambert, who's making so much ground. He's got it all to do again, but that does release Nath up into P4, who is now our lead Division 1 driver. Well, Nath will be absolutely marvelling at that, I'm sure, as he's now got the pressure for the remaining half of the race to hold on to it as Martin goes wide out of 11. They're all trying to go too wide for 11. He got onto the grass and he collects it just about before it hits the wall, but this is a disaster for both of our leading Division 1 drivers. Lambert back ahead of Martin now, but it's literally going from good to bad to worse to great to bad to worse. So the pair of them, I can't predict what's going to happen, but we see Luke Mitchell has dropped off our race leader, and as they all charge into turn 1 on lap number 4, we can see that Nath has got a little bit of a gap, a little bit of a comfort barrier to Sir Bertus, but Bertus right now, well, I say Bertus, D10 Piper battling with Gino, and these two going side by side through 1 into 2, and D10 Piper finds himself at the inside for 3, and I think he has got the move done, but Gino's going to come back. He looks to the inside for 4, but I don't think Gino's got a move on as they make their way up the hill now, up towards turn number 5. Down into the carousel they go, and D10 Piper has got it done. Well done to the British driver. Now he's got a chase after the Dutchman ahead of him. There's still a gap of 1 second to close up, and then a further second to Nath, who's just up the road. That battle for P4, indeed P1 in the Division 1 Championship right now in this race is all but ignited, and I'm sure it's going to have a spark very shortly. As we can see behind, Gino is getting closer to D10 once again. It seems as though D10 is stronger of the two of them in the first half of the circuit, so sectors 1 and sectors 2. But then as they come into sector 3, that's where Gino really starts to ignite and chase after Piper like a man possessed to try and get as many points as possible, which is the name of the game, of course, and Gino will be fully aware of that as they make their way down to turn 12 for the 4th time of asking. Gino trying to get a good run, but feels a little bit of understeer off the corner there, but he keeps it together, and Decast having a disastrous time, and I think Decast has lost all of his momentum, and we can see Lambert immediately takes the place and Decast tucks in behind. So 4 minutes to go right now. We expect that to be 3 more laps or so. They make their way up the hill once again, charging down towards turn number 1 for the 5th time of asking, and Decast can't find the move on Lambert. Lambert's got that place secure, but meanwhile up front we can see that Mitchell 2.2 seconds off of Sparks right now, and Philo a further 4.8 behind and gradually closing. I think they're all secure, and Nath in a comfortable P4, 1.8 seconds clear of Bertus, well 1.7 now with that little mistake off the corner, and as they make their way into turn 5, we can see that Bertus under increasing pressure for D10 Piper, who we ride on board with now and look forward from the British driver here, who's trying to find his way past the Listerine liveried BMW of Sir Bertus as they make their way through 6 and up into 7. Now, of course, going into this braking zone for 8, he could choose to go for the move here, but it's going to cost him so much momentum. Instead, he opts not to, and Bertus holds to the centre of the circuit and almost gets it wrong there, and D10 was almost able to squeeze up the inside, but Bertus just covered it off by parking on the apex in time. But you can see the Dutchman is in 2 minds, and one part of him wants to stay on the racing line to get the fastest possible lap time to chase after Nath. He probably feels he's got a pace advantage versus Nath, but D10 is all over the back of him, and I think if D10 can nail the braking in as there's more contact, and I think he's made a bit of a mistake there into turn 12, and he's backed out as a result of it, because that would have been a push to pass if not. D10 respecting the sportsmanship, and now they go charging all the way down towards turn number 1 once again, as we see that Nath picking up a half-second penalty going into turn 13 for track limits, and now he's going to have to burn that. He burns it, of course, and meanwhile in the battle down into turn number 1, Matthew Lambert coming out of nowhere and going for the move on D10 Piper. He can't quite get it done as they charge it through turns 2 and 3, and D10 has now got the championship leader for Division 1 all in his rearview mirror, and I think Lambert's going to try and go for a move as soon as possible. He goes to the move into turn 4, he makes it count, and D10 goes wide as a result of Matthew on his inside, and now as they come into turn 5, I think Lambert is charged off him, but D10 comes back at him. It's a return of the favour, and D10 gets the place back. You'd love to see a little bit of door-to-door action here in what effectively are touring cars as they make their way down through 6, 7 and up into 8. D10 saying to Matthew, if you're going to come through, you're going to have to work it a lot harder than that, as Lambert goes to move into 8 here and breaks it as hard as possible, and I think he has got it done this time, has Lambert, because there's no way D10 can throw it around the outside in Windmill Corner, surely, as they go through 9 and 10 then. He's not going to get it done, and now he's chasing after Sir Bertus with 1.5 minutes to go. It's all to play for, as we can see right at the back of the field, Martin having that disastrous race, and I think there are some technical issues with that car, because to be 11.5 seconds down with his pace, that is not natural. It's not going to plan tonight. But as they're now coming down towards the start-finish line, a number of drivers starting their final lap from what we suspect. We can see we have got that long train where Matthew Lambert has in fact got past D10 Piper, with D10 I'm hearing going wide out of 13, and he's got that half-second penalty which he will have to burn, and he won't want to have to do that, of course, as he sweeps around the outside whilst burning the penalty. D10 using a little bit of tactics there, and I'm not sure whether that's going to be permitted, of course. I think Lambert might have a word to the stewards afterwards, depending on what is and is not allowed, but that is one way to make the move count, and well, D10 going for it of all sorts of description there as they all make their way through turn 4, and we can see further back, meanwhile, Gino under a lot of pressure from Decast and Descriver trying to get in the mix as well, but I think Gino has got a little bit of a comfort barrier, as Decast and Descriver will be in their own little battle as well, as we've got half a minute to go before the timer's up here, and I'm not sure whether we're going to be seeing an 8th lap from any of our drivers, or if we are, it's only going to be perhaps from 1 or 2 of them up front. As they come charging down, we can see Lambert versus D10 once again. Lambert on the inside, D10 on the outside, and Lambert has made it count, and surely that's got to have sealed the deal there, because that was a huge amount of momentum Matthew managed to carry up the hill compared to Piper. As they make their way down into the start-finish line, it will be Sparks who comes across the line in P1 onto one more lap. Luke Mitchell coming into the pits. I'm not sure what's happened there from Luke, but he's actually going to lose places as a result of it, as Philo comes across the line. What on earth is happening here? As Philo comes across the line, and they're all charging across right now. So Nathan P3, Matthew Lambert in P5, well, Sir Bertus in P4, and then it's going to be Matthew Lambert in P5, D10 Piper in P6, Gino in P7, Descriver in P8, Decast in P9. Mitchell comes out of the pits in P10. I think that was a mistake from Mitchell. And then in P11, it will be Martin, and Sparks will be bringing things home on his parade lap here. The only driver to make an 8th lap once again by the shortest of margins. But Luke Mitchell, I think, making the mother of all mistakes there going into the pits, perhaps thinking it would jump him to the end of the pit lane and essentially bring him home in P2. So that is a P2 that has been thrown away. That is a disaster for the Alien League driver, but I can confirm, ladies and gentlemen, that it will be Sparks who brings home the win, and it will be TNR Philo who in the end comes home in P2. Nath picking up a 3rd place, a podium overall, and winning the race for the Division 1 drivers. Nath will be best pleased with that, and Sir Bertus getting the 4th place and the 2nd place podium for Division 1, and it'll be Matthew Lambert in 5th, bringing home that 3rd place for Division 1 drivers, as we see that Sparks comes across the line. Congratulations to Sparks, bringing it home, making it 2 out of 2 tonight. And we're getting confirmation, as we say, congratulations to all of our drivers. And we're getting confirmation, ladies and gentlemen, from Luke Mitchell that he thought the AI would just go straight through the pits. So he thought the AI would take over effectively. Well, that is... that's a disaster, but I think Luke's going to realise... it happens, he's got to move on. Because I know Luke is one of those drivers who can bounce back very quickly when things go wrong. But there are your final standings, of course, ladies and gentlemen, subject to any stewards' inquiries. Sparks Fury bringing home the win, making it 2 out of 2. Philo in 2nd place. And those two drivers, of course, round off the first two places of our Alien League. And then our third driver in the Alien League will be Luke Mitchell in the end, finished P10 after the pit stop incident right at the end. And Martin will be coming home in P4 for our Alien League drivers, finishing last of our drivers out in the field in race number 2. Meanwhile, Nath with that P3, rounding off our overall podium in race number 2, will be our winner of Division 1 in this second race, ahead of Sir Bertus and Matthew Lambert. The fastest lap being a 1:24.279 on lap number 2, as set by Sparks 3. The fastest lap we've seen in race conditions, and only 2 tenths down on the fastest lap we saw in qualifying, also set by Sparks. So a phenomenal set of racing tonight, and indeed, what a fantastic night for all of our drivers, and I think they're all happy to be back. Well, we indeed are happy to see them back in the second half of the season. And what an absolutely chaotic set of races tonight. Some brilliant overtakes up and down the field, however. And we'll be moving on to another round in a week's time for plenty more action. Now, of course, whilst we've got that idle moment, what can you look forward to next time out? Well, if you'll give us 2 seconds, ladies and gentlemen, we'll let you know where we're going to be in a week's time in terms of the races. We will be for round number 7 at the Brazilian circuit of Interlagos, which is, of course, a favourite up and down the field, and one where the BMW M4s will absolutely thrive. But that has been our show for tonight. Thank you all for tuning in, and of course, and if you have enjoyed it, be sure to let me know, and be sure to let the Next Gen Racing community guys know. But this has been round number 6, Lobby 1 of Next Gen Faster BMW M4 League Season 20. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, stay on track. Good night.